Bowling with the Theft.
I encourage you to get theft.
Your bowling stories.
For all things the game of bowling.
Every week.
Helping bowlers.
The hand collapses down.
Live.
And I'm going to try to bowl the best I can.
2,000 subscribers. 2,000 subscribers.
I want to challenge Ken Nelson.
Tom Corbett.
Jason Belmont.
Let's do this. This is Bowling with the Pfaff.
Hey everyone, good evening, and hope you had a great Tuesday today. Welcome to Bowling with the Pfaff, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel as we get into the holiday season, the cold season up here in the Midwest, and just kind of plowing straight through this bowling season with another fantastic guest in this show that I'm looking forward to talking with. Hopefully we have some better news than this. The 2025 Chippewa Valley Match Games, according to tournament director Denny Burkhart, has been canceled. This was, he told me, going to be his last year to run the tournament that has been going on at Wagner's Lanes in Eau Claire, Wisconsin for some 65, 66 years. But unfortunately, the center informed him that it wouldn't be going on this year. He did try and relocate to a different center, but said that it just didn't work out in the time he had allotted. He let me know that on this past Thursday, what had happened, and that he was going to really make the announcement to the bowling community at large over the weekend, which he did. I have seen a report to the contrary, but called Mr. Burkhart right afterwards, and he did confirm that the event has been canceled. This is an event that I've live streamed the finals of multiple times and really has a place in my heart since it's right here in town, and I've tried bowling in it a time or two with no success, which doesn't really paint the picture of how great the competitors in this event are, but trust me when I say they are, and it will be missed. Hopefully something happens where we can bring back a Chippewa Valley Match Games in the years to come. But for now, the 2025 event, which was scheduled for the first weekend in January, has been canceled, unfortunately. Well, let's get into a little happier news, and the PBA Tour awards some of its top players in categories like sportsmanship, community service, and bowling and bowler of the year, I should say, every December. And now we know who two of the award winners are for 2024. Earlier today, the tour announced that Kyle Troop is the 2024 PBA Tony Reyes Community Service Award winner. Troop holds a Christmas no-tap event to raise money for holiday gifts for children in North Carolina and Kentucky. It's raised almost $40,000 in its 3 years. Yesterday, the PBA revealed that Richie Teese is this year's Steve Nagy Sportsmanship Award recipient. Teese and 8 other players received nominations for the award, and Teese ended up winning by receiving better than 25% of the vote that followed. Now, typically, Rookie of the Year and Player of the Year announcements come next. The PBA has announced that the Harry Golden Rookie of the Year award winner will be revealed tomorrow, and the next guest on this show may just be one of the winners. We'll tell you more about that a little later on. We do have another tournament live stream coming your way later this month on Saturday, December 21st. You'll see live coverage of the adult match games in Rochester, Minnesota. Trey Henriksmeyer won last year's event, took the youth event the next day for good measure. This is the 4th jewel in the 10K Larson Siding, Windows, and Roofing Quintuple Crown. And I do have a list of the winners there for you. So far, William Jones took the Southway Open in St. Cloud, Minnesota. The Champions Pro Shop Open champion was Matt Payne, as you saw live on the channel. Tom Hess took the Lacrosse Open. And then we have the Holiday Match Games and the TBA event, which has since become the JMO's Open in Faribault in February. Josh Kennedy is the points leader going into Rochester, so we will see how those folks end up doing, and as we start to see who's going to end up winning that quintuple crown and a couple big mittfuls of cash that come with that honor. Don't forget, we do have a merch store on Etsy, etsy.com/shop/bowlingwiththefefco. You'll find t-shirts and hoodies, really nice hoodies too. They're nice and warm for the cold weather months that we have across the Midwest. Good stuff. Bowling with the Fef is also supported by two great sponsors. Jerry's Score More Bowling Supply inside Wagner's Lanes. You can reach him at 715-559-1822. He has been doing this thing in the sport of bowling and doing it well since 1988. He drills my stuff, and hopefully he'll drill yours too. Also, our other sponsor.
Handmade salsa is great, but it's such a hassle. Cutting yourself, the constant waiting, burning yourself. Oh, look at that mess. Raise your snack standards. Chip Magnet Salsa.
Yeah, don't cut or burn yourself. Try Chip Magnet instead. You can get a special deal too if you order from chipmagnetsalsa.com. You enter the promo code BWTF2024 at checkout. If you order $30 or more, they'll give you 25% off your purchase, and there is no limit on that. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. If you're in Eau Claire, man, you can find Chip Magnet everywhere. You can find it at Target. You can find it at Woodman's, Festival, Eau Claire Cheese and Deli, the Buttons and Bakery Boutique in Rock Falls. It is all over the place, and it is great. So give it a try. Chip Magnet, thank you for your support of Bowling with the Fef. You can also get it on Amazon too. They've got an Amazon store as well. Well, our guest tonight started coaching UW-Eau Claire's men's and women's bowling teams a couple months ago and is about to lead them into the second half of the season and the Great Lakes Bowling Conference events that come with it. The conference has had 2 tournaments so far. They've got a couple more coming up, one on January 25th and 26th in Rockford, Illinois, and then the 4th and final event in February 1st and 2nd in Appleton, Wisconsin. In the meantime, an interesting side gig for this civil engineer by day that doesn't seem to have much to do with bowling, but maybe he can tell me otherwise. Alex Bandli is originally from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, which is just outside of Madison. And he is joining us from Eau Claire tonight in an episode called The Air Up There. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be on.
Yeah, great to have you on. Let's kind of start out with the name of this. We called this episode The Air Up There because in addition to your day job and your coaching, you are a drone photographer and videographer, which is awesome. That's right after my own heart. I wish I was licensed to do that, maybe someday. But tell us how you got into that.
Yeah, so when I moved up to Eau Claire after college, I was living in my apartment. I didn't really have much to do, kind of a new town, new city. And I wanted to find something to give me an excuse to go outside, check out new areas, go to Half Moon Lake, just Big Falls County Park, all those areas. And something just clicked in my mind. I wanted to get into drone stuff. I went to Best Buy on a whim, bought a beginner drone, started flying around, and I was like, ooh, kind of like this a lot. I just love the landscape photos, the big, stretches of Eau Claire from a bird's eye view. And over time, I sort of got a better drone here and there and started chasing the idea of maybe starting my own side business, doing aerial photography and videography. And it was actually just this past April that I officially licensed or made an LLC for my business.
Okay. And tell us what it's called and where we can find you and all that good stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So the business is Flight First Photography. You can find it at flightfirstphoto.com. I do pretty much anything at this point, like homestead photos. I'm looking to get into more real estate photography. So check out the website. You can kind of get a sneak peek at some things I've done in the past.
Yeah, that is awesome. Like I said, something I'm absolutely interested in. What is your favorite thing that you've, taken pictures or video of from the sky?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say my favorite thing in general is I like video probably more than even photography. I think videography is a better way to tell a story with a lot of pictures, just sweeping landscapes. So like I really have enjoyed taking video for the Eau Claire Express in the summertime. I did that for them. I have done a lot of miscellaneous, I guess, my own projects. I did a little video I put together of a log milling operation on my family's farm. Made a little video of that. I think more nature videography is probably my favorite thing.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. So, I mean, like I said in the beginning, not really sure aerial photography and videography has much to do with bowling, but I'll try and make the connection here because I reached out to someone who I actually met at Wagner's when she used to work there and now has become a professional photographer. Her name is Klein Leonard, and she told me that, about your kind of personality through the photography stuff you guys have done together. She said Alex always shows up ready to take on a challenge. He's open to trying new things and looking from a new perspective to reach an end goal. She said you're incredibly reliable, consistent, and that you show up with integrity. She said you're incredibly creative and consider perspectives that few have the ability to see, and that you're dynamic, that you can see the big picture as well as the fine details. And if you want someone you can count on to get the job done and done well, Alex is your guy. Is she on the payroll?
It sounds like it, the way that she gave a glowing review. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Klein. Actually, Klein, she was probably the main reason I was able to get to this point. She was almost like a business consultant in a way. When I was first starting out trying to dip my toes a little bit in the water of like what it means to start a business and how to get into the photography game, I honestly just looked it up on Google Maps. I was like, local photographers in Eau Claire, and her name popped up. So I sent her a message on Instagram, started a conversation, and we met a few times to talk about sort of the process and things to think about when starting a business. She actually just like a business class that I took. Stop Chasing, Start Attracting. I'll give her a little shout out there. But yeah, no, she is great, and I really appreciate her glowing remarks about me.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. She does great stuff on social, and she's done some videos and I think some live streaming as well. But yeah, my team got to know her because she used to work at Wagner's before all that. So that's kind of the only link I can figure, between that and bowling, unless you can figure another one that I'm just not thinking of.
Well, the initial kind of beginning of her review, I guess, talking about a new challenge, I definitely felt sort of a connection there with starting this coaching challenge, because I've never been on the coaching side of it before. I've always been the one to be coached. So definitely has been a new challenge, I will say, coaching bowling.
Okay. So there's the challenge of making your team better on the lanes, right? And being a club sport at UW-Eau Claire, you got to have some money. You got to have some resources to do it. Last week at League, we saw some of your folks at, going lane to lane, raising money through a 50-50 raffle. My teammate won it. There he is, getting his winnings. I believe he said it was about $250. How important is it to raise those funds and have the members of your team on board for fundraising and things like that?
I mean, yeah, it is a big part of keeping the club going and being able to fund all these different tournaments we go to, all these GLBCs we attend. I mean, there's hotel costs, travel costs, even, having practice at Wagner's there's a cost to everything. So it's really important that we're all on board and working towards this fundraising through these 50-50 raffles. I think we had like a sticker sale and sticker and button sale at tournament. But no, they've been very, very helpful with getting that fundraising going. and just keeping the team going well. And a lot of the bowlers have been very supportive of, helping alleviate costs. Like their families will help host us for different GLBC tournaments. That's the big saver for sure. But yeah, any dollar helps keep the club going and helps give us snacks for these tournaments and just kind of just keeping us going and keeping the club strong.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's cool to see you guys out there. I mentioned to you, and I've mentioned on the show a couple times, that I used to compete for UW-Eau Claire back in the mid 90s. And I know, I mean, yeah, you scrape by, you drive your own cars, you figure out a way to get it done. I mean, do you have to have a certain personality to kind of succeed in that environment? Because you're going to run into teams that have more resources, that have bowling ball company sponsors and other forms of resources to get them going in comfort to these events.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge that we've luckily been able to take on pretty successfully, I would say. And I think there is something to be said about having the right bowlers in the program that want to keep this going and want it to succeed. And hopefully they want to stick around for all their years here, maybe all 4 or 5, however long they want to bowl. And yeah, and as for competing with, different teams with more resources, I think there's something about having a good cohesive unit together that has a one goal, getting us to tournaments, trying our best, and trying to take away something from each experience.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Either you win or you learn, right? Sometimes both.
There's always something positive to take away from a tournament, no matter where you finish, if you make the cut or not. There's always that experience of competing, how to lift up your teammates, and just the mental game, I think, is something that a lot of the bowlers don't really fully understand until they're actually in that competitive environment.
Yeah. It's tough to explain that kind of thing in words, but I'm sure you find a way when you get to know your players and get to know that unit, as you mentioned. All right, so everybody starts in this sport somewhere. Your hometown is Sun Prairie, down by Madison. Where does the bowling story begin for you?
Where does it all begin? Well, so one of my hometown friends, he was bowling kind of just for fun in the youth league in Sun Prairie. And I think just kind of on a whim, he asked, "Oh, do you want to just go bowl for fun in this league with me?" And I was like, "Oh, sure." I mean, before then, my experience bowling was probably like maybe 2 or 3 times a year just for fun, like nothing serious. So I got in there, I started bowling, and this was in it's like 8th grade. So I was like 13, 14 years old when I started bowling. And I think for me, there was just something so rewarding about when you start bowling and you're really bad, and just the amount of progress you can make just by trying your best and working on your technique. It doesn't take too long for you to become a pretty competent bowler. And that rewarding feeling kept me going all the way through high school. Just having that encouragement from my high school coach, who was probably the biggest influence on my bowling journey as a whole. But we had a great program in Sun Prairie. We had a scholarship program with our youth league, where it would be like if you had clean games, you'd win $25 for a scholarship. Clean series, 200 game, like just all these little incentives to try and earn scholarships to help pay for college. And that's a really, really big program there. But yeah, I guess that's where it started, and I fell for it pretty fast. I went all in high school for sure.
Yeah. So what kind of pushed you? I mean, you talked about that feeling of growth those tangible results that you can see on, up on the score and things like that. Were there other people who kind of push you, maybe your peers, your coaches, who kind of gave you the biggest push when you were first starting out?
When I was first starting out, I think I would say it was the coaching that because they always had a coach or multiple coaches at our youth leagues that were always giving us advice, reminding us to do certain things like, keeping your arm out when you follow through and, staying there and watching the ball go down the lane as it hooks, like just constant guidance from the coaching there. And I think that was what kind of made me get on board with the whole idea of bowling as a sport more seriously as I got into high school. And it's something you don't always think about with like the constant reminders from coaching, but it is those little things over and over, the repetition that really help you gain confidence in what you're doing. And you kind of see those tangible results when you think back to like, oh, I used to have all these bad habits when I was bowling, and kind of worked on it over time, perfected my craft. And that was the push initially. I think though, when I got into high school, the push for me was seeing that varsity high school team and kind of like looking up at it and being like, I want to get up here at some point. So I probably bowled 4 or 5 days a week in high school, always practicing, going to multiple leagues, doing tournaments on weekends. So it was a lot back then for sure, but
Yeah.
it was pretty rewarding.
That scholarship element that you talked about, that's got to be pretty rare, right? I've never heard of anything like that. And back in my junior career, I would go and bowl anything for scholarship money, but it was usually in the form of tournaments where you put down a pretty decent chunk of change for the time when you only one can win and all that stuff. But to hit those little milestones and get a little something for it has got to be really neat.
Yeah, it is sort of I don't say paid, but just it's a fun way to incentivize bowlers to, I guess, try a little bit and think about their future, and also kind of an incentive. I mean, you have the scholarship money, you probably want to use it when you graduate, go to school, maybe bowl in college too. So yeah, it's definitely a motivator. And the Sun Prairie program is, I don't know of another program like it. The backing behind it is great. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I think when I was there, they were raising like in the tens of thousands of dollars for these kids. And every year they wanted to raise a little bit more, up, top themselves and help all these kids out.
Yeah. Who was that high school coach that had such an impact on you?
So the high school coach was John Breinig. He is still there to this day. He is probably he's like the Vince Lombardi of bowling coaches, I would say.
Always to the lanes 15 minutes early.
Right. We had a saying, he says, if you're early, you're on time, and if you're on time, you're late. He was very strict about that. Much stricter than I am with my bowlers, but
Yeah.
we were a very disciplined group of guys out there.
Okay. And he's been there for quite some time. So this program has had some history, I'm gathering.
Yeah. He has been there, I think, since the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly when he started. I know the Sun Prairie team won a state championship back in 2003. That's as far back as I know of his coaching. But yeah, he's been there decades now and really grown that program, and it is very strong to this day.
Yeah. Tell us about the format of those events in high school and what it took for you to kind of break through and get into that lineup.
Yeah, so typically for down in the Madison area, we would have these like Mountain Dew, what was it called? We had like these Mountain Dew bowling tournaments, I think, or Pepsi youth tournaments. I think they were the big sponsor for those. Those would typically be once a month or so. I think there was about 2 or 3 tournaments every month throughout like the main school year. So doing well in those, getting that was basically our practice for that competitive mindset from an individual sense. And then as for the team, I mean, we would have our tryouts, when the school year started, and it was a pretty competitive group of guys, like between JV and varsity, and that is something that I think really does push you when you have to set yourself apart from everyone to try and earn your spot on a team.
Yeah. I remember my coach in high school would do things to inspire us, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, but he knew us, he knew our personalities. He knew what it took to motivate us. Do you feel like your coach treated you guys differently, or did he treat you all the same?
I think he treated everyone pretty equally. I think for him, the big thing was, I mean, if you showed up and put in the time, like, yeah, he's gonna value that and appreciate it. I don't think it was like a favorites thing, but if you're there practicing on your weekends or putting in more time to work, like, it's stuff that he'll notice. And he really does value the respect between him and his bowlers, and a mutual understanding of like, hey, we're trying to get better here. We're striving for greatness. That was, I mentioned Vince Lombardi. He mentioned in our little breakdowns, he'd say like, no one's perfect, but if we strive for excellence, we'll catch greatness. Kind of like what Vince Lombardi once said. And that was kind of our MO. I mean, we were a very competitive team back in 2015 and 2016, my junior and senior year. We won back-to-back state championships those 2 years, so we did pretty well. And then my senior year, we went to the first ever national high school bowling tournament down in Florida, which we ended in 3rd place. So that was kind of where I guess you could say I peaked in my bowling career as a bowler. So,
yeah. Well, in fact, one of your team members, as he was coming around with the raffle tickets, told me that was one of the things and he kind of elevated you from that 3rd place finish. Listen.
He's a very good bowler, and I want to be like him, win the national championship.
Okay. A national championship?
National champion, Alex.
Nice run, Jeremy. Like in college?
I think so.
High school.
High school.
I think. Oh, sorry. I could be wrong. All right.
So she was right about the high school part, but it was a 3rd place finish, but he kind of elevated you to the championship.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was probably the most competitive feeling I think I ever had, going to a different state. The idea of the tournament was that they invited all like the state champions from all the states that had a high school bowling tournament. And it was the best of the best. We set well, I guess it was a record because it was the first year, but we had like the best qualifying of all the teams by like a margin of 400 pins. And then unfortunately we got knocked out in the step ladder. So typically in high school bowling, if you get the 1 seed, you get like a bye. You don't have to bowl the first round. We still had to work our way up, and unfortunately we got knocked out. So,
okay.
But
what, you talked about taking something from every tournament. I know that must have been disappointing, to get so far up and not take home the ultimate prize. But what'd you guys learn about that experience?
For me, I mean, my takeaway was I took it a little more as like a retrospective, like reflecting on the last 4 years of my bowling through high school, sort of like appreciating the moment. And it was a little bit more of like a just taking the time to really reflect on it and just know that like you don't get to bowl in high school forever. You got to move on eventually. As a team, though, the takeaway was good. I mean, we did have a little bit of I don't say chemistry issues, but leading up to that national tournament, there was some strife. There was things we had to resolve as a team, and we did some team bonding things. And I think coming out of the tournament, we did feel a lot closer of a group. I'd say just sort of like, we went out there, we did what we could, and we went home sooner than we wanted to. But as a team, we did the best we could until towards the end. But we were proud of ourselves for sure.
Yeah. And that's a big thing, because I'm guessing there are a lot of teams there that probably didn't feel so proud coming home from that event.
Right. I mean, I was on the receiving end of that. Like my sophomore year of high school in the state championship, we finished just out of qualifying by I want to say it was 40 pins, which just gut wrenching when you are that close. And it's like, oh, how many spares could we have picked up to get that much closer? All those random single pins that we missed, just things like that you start to think about. But it's good not to dwell too much on the negative things and just try and keep going, keep working on it and getting better the next time. One thing John would always say is if we threw a bad shot, he says, you have 10 seconds to feel good or bad about what you just did. And then after that, I want you thinking about the next shot and being there for your team.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, really, whether you're bowling as a team or individually, if you can have that, that short memory and that ability to kind of put that behind you, that's that's the secret sauce right there. Did you end up going on to bowl in college?
So that's the funny thing is I did not bowl in college. That's kind of crazy, but I went to school at UW-Platteville for civil engineering. I think it was my sophomore year was when I was like, all right, I've been in Platteville for a year. I feel more comfortable. Maybe I'll reach out and see what it takes to bowl. And I think I reached out a little too late. I think they already had their team set up for the year. And I was also deep in my engineering classes, and I had enough going on as it was. And I kind of wish I had done it now that I've started to live the bowling experience through Eau Claire. Kind of wish I'd done it with Platteville. They have a really good team this year. They are very good.
Yeah. So you don't bowl in college, you graduate, you move up here. Was it just for the job to move up here, or was there another reason?
Kind of, yeah. So when I was still in Platteville, it was the spring of 2021. COVID was still kind of a thing for sure. So I had virtual career fairs at Platteville still, and I interviewed with the current company I'm at, Core, and really liked the interview. I had a follow-up interview in Madison, and that went well. And then I'm waiting to hear back from them. It's 2 weeks, and I finally get an offer for a job. And they said, well, we're going to give you the choice. Do you want to work in the Madison office, or do you want to work in the Eau Claire office? And I thought about it for a few days because Madison is my home area. It could be very close to my family. But there was something about Eau Claire that I was like, oh, a new place, new scenery, starting fresh, new city. I also do have some family that lives in Rice Lake.
Oh, okay.
And I have a cousin that lives in Eau Claire. So I've settled on Eau Claire. I've moved up here and been happy here ever since.
Okay. And, you get into it, and then it wasn't until this last October that the team announced that you would be the coach. So kind of fill in the gap between when you first got here and they made that announcement. Are you bowling? Are you involved in bowling, leagues, tournaments, anything like that?
Yeah. So when I moved up here, it's kind of, moving to a new city all on your own. Sort of a kind of an overwhelming experience for the I'd say first year or so. So I didn't actually start bowling until the fall of 23 last year, actually. So last year was my first full season, and this is my second season bowling in Eau Claire. I think part of it for me was having to reach out to the bowling alley and be like, "Hey, I don't know anyone here. Can you fit me in a spot somewhere?" And that experience alone is sort of intimidating. Like, like what if the team I'm put on is like doesn't like me, or these people have known each other for 40, 50 years, whatever. They were high school friends back in the day, and I lucked out big time. So I bowl at Bullwinkle's on Thursdays. I bowl with my sister Brooke. She is on the women's team for Eau Claire. And then kind of just randomly, my other two teammates are two also young guys my age about, and they've been wanting to bowl for a few years. And our league secretary called them up and said, "We got two new people. Do you want to make it four?" So they joined. They've been bowling with us, and they're great guys. I love hanging out with them. And yeah. So back to the the college stuff. So the reason I'm coaching is kind of just out of nowhere. My sister Brooke, one day she's like, "Well, we don't have a coach anymore, and you can totally say no. It's fine. You don't have to do it." She's like, "Would you want to coach for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'd do it."
Okay.
She was kind of surprised. She didn't think I'd go for it, but no, it's been great coaching them and just trying to explain bowling things that I know and in a way that they understand, and all the different skill levels amongst them. And because you have some guys that have been bowling in high school and bowled competitively, and then you have others who are almost just starting, really, and trying to explain things in different ways so that you don't lay it on too thick for them, and you don't hurt their confidence or anything. You just every bowler has a different set of things they got to work on, and kind of managing all that is my job.
Yeah. Had coaching been something that you had always thought about, or was this just totally out of the blue?
It was pretty much totally out of the blue. I had never really thought of it, mainly because the last coach at Eau Claire, he is now the coach for Platteville.
Yeah.
So Davis, yep, Davis was a coach last year, and I believe he graduated and went back down to the Madison area. He's actually from Sun Prairie. He bowled in the same program as I did.
Wow.
So yeah, it all leads back to Sun Prairie, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I had never thought of it, mainly because they had a coach. My sister was bowling there. It was all good, and this vacancy filled up, and they needed someone to step in.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know Davis was from Sun Prairie. I would have asked him about the groundhog biting the mayor's ear, but
Jimmy the groundhog. Yes.
That's what Sun Prairie is famous for. At least
yes.
in my weird mind it is. But okay, so your sister, you mentioned, is on the team. She's the one who hits you up with this idea to coach. She's also the president of the club, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Is there any, I guess, if I'm someone else on that team, I might accept that and I might not, but has it been a process to show these teams that, hey, I'm here for the good of the teams and not just because my sister's here?
Right. It is something I thought about when I agreed to do this. I mean, from an outside perspective, I suppose the president of the club's older brother being the coach of the team is, it could be seen as potentially someone like playing favorites or anything. But I have been pretty strict with my, if we're in a tournament, let's say, I'm not going to just default to putting my sister at 5'10", just because she's my sister. I mean, I will look at how they're doing. Are they picking up their spares? How they're like how comfortable they are, and then make a decision based on that. I've had her bowl almost every position in the lineup, so it's I don't play I try not to play any favorites with any of the bowlers. I try to give them as much attention that they either want or don't want. I try to tell them sometimes what they don't want to hear, and hopefully they take it well.
Yeah, kind of. I would imagine that happened to you growing up, as maybe you didn't hear all, sunshine and rainbows from, coaches you had, but you understand the method behind the madness, the need to, to hear that kind of stuff to do better.
Yeah, I think it's good not to sugarcoat. I think as a coach, your job is to walk the line of supporting your players and, making them confident in themselves, but also at the same time, being like, well, we talked about this, and this is something that I want you to keep working on. And sometimes if guys are screwing around in practice, and I'm like, come on, let's get back on track here and focus, have a productive practice. But I think for the most part, everyone likes what I'm putting down for them. And I've had plenty of moments where, and this is probably one of the most rewarding things about the coaching, is when you tell someone to change their hand position a certain way or change their footwork a little bit, and then they're like, wow, that felt really good. That I'm glad I tried that. And it's one of those rewarding things that, like, they might have figured that out on their own at some point, but just being there to tell them that and push them in the right direction is just really rewarding.
Yeah. So their victories are really your victories.
Yeah, it's a shared thing. I mean, I'm not going to take much of the credit for like what exactly they put out there on the lane, but I just know that being a positive influence on them and really trying to make them bowl the best of their ability is kind of the victories I'll take.
Yeah. So you talked about productive practices, and I want to know if this is part of that formula. Listen.
He likes to dance a lot.
He likes to dance a lot?
During practice.
At practice he dances?
Yeah.
What dances does he do?
He likes to wobble. That's true. He likes to
The what?
the wobble.
Can you demonstrate?
What is that?
It's like Alex does it way better than me, because he kind of likes to wobble. Alex is really good at it. He also likes disco dance.
How'd she do on those?
It's pretty spot on. Oh, they're exposing me. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I like to. There's always there's a women's league that is next to us when we're doing our practice every Wednesday, and there's always music playing, and just trying to stay loose. Kind of, I mean, it's a 2-hour practice. You gotta stay loose and positive vibes, and yeah. So sometimes I'll kind of loosen up, do a little dance for them, and they'll also kind of relax. And sometimes they get really tense practicing. I'm like, come on guys, let's have fun here. We're trying to get better, but if we're not having fun, like what's the point of this?
Yeah, it's kind of a delicate balance, but you're right, you got to toe that line and make it fun for them, so they're inspired to do better and things like that. So you get into this coaching thing, and this is the first year in quite a few years that UW-Eau Claire has had men's and women's teams. They've had mixed teams. They've had all women's teams for several years here, but it's been some years. Is this kind of like almost starting over? Does it feel like a new program to you?
I would say, yeah. I mean, in like my only point of reference is my experience with like the high school bowling, which was a big established program, lots of bowlers, lots of competition amongst the different bowlers. And for this Eau Claire team, I mean, we have 5 guys to fill a team, and we have 6 girls, or 6, 7. Oof, I should know, but but the point is we have a women's team and we have a men's team, and the men's team is just enough to field a team, and the women's team, there's sometimes we do have to split frames in tournaments and do that. But yeah, it does feel like kind of starting over, like you're playing franchise mode in a sports game and you're trying to figure out your identity as a team and how to like kind of assess your players and the strengths of certain players, things we need to work on. And for the guys team, they are all freshmen. It's all young guys who have not been in this college scene before. So for them especially, like this is totally new for them, and the whole format of Baker style bowling. I mean, some of them did it in high school, but some of them had never bowled really competitively, and kind of working through, there's a lot of time when you're just standing around at a tournament, you only bowl 2 frames a game, and sort of trying to teach the guys that, like, yeah, it's important what you do when you throw the ball, but you also play a really important role when you're standing back and watching your other teammates go out there and play too, just uplifting them. And so I think, for rebuilding a team or starting fresh, that is probably the thing we had to work on the most in the first, I would say, 2 or 3 tournaments, was because the first few tournaments we didn't bowl all that great. The sport shot was a big challenge for some of them, and because some of them have only bowled on a house shot their entire lives, and making that adjustment to a sport pattern can be really, really difficult.
Oh, yeah.
The big thing that I heard over and over and over was, my ball's not hooking, I can't hook to the pocket, and just making those adjustments, straighten out their shot. And then kind of after the tournament was done, we sort of took a step back and kind of assessed where we were as a team, and started to build more cohesion amongst all of our bowlers, and less of a individual mindset of like, I bowl this one spot on my team and that's my job, and thinking more about it as a team unit and uplifting each other and having fun with each other. I think that was the big thing, like what Sam said, like the dancing, just having fun, enjoying our time together, working on becoming a better team. And so yeah, we are starting from the ground up, and I've seen a lot of good progress with them just in this first semester.
Yeah, and that's an important part of it. I happened to be there when you guys were at the Stout Open. This is some video from that. But one of the interesting things that I thought of when you said, hey, we've got 5 freshmen bowling on the guys' side, and you're going to see him coming up here, I think, in a shot or two, is Cody Webb, who I'm familiar with because he bowled at Memorial and had a very successful high school career. This is him shooting at the 10-pin here. I remember my high school career and having seniors be the leaders when I was a freshman. Same thing in college. I didn't really have to take that leadership role until I was an upperclassman. Is that kind of something that's almost the reverse for Cody, where you kind of need him to lead at this, young part of his college career?
Yeah, I would say he has definitely been one of the leaders on our team. Typically during our tournaments, he'll be the captain. He'll report all the scores, keep track of everything, and he's one of our stronger bowlers on the team, and he'll typically bowl the 5 or 4 spot. And I think he's a good example for the rest of the bowlers, just his work ethic, and he's definitely had a lot of coaching up to this point. And I think he definitely can play that role, I know they're all freshmen, but he definitely can be the leader, one of the leaders on the team.
Yeah. What's the difference in your mind between coaching the guys and coaching the ladies, since you do a little of both?
Yeah, it is a different dynamic for sure. I think I would say that the ladies team, they did bowl last year, so they're a little more familiar with going to these tournaments and what it means to make adjustments mid-tournament and keeping mentally intact, because it's kind of a marathon. It's not a sprint. I mean, it's by the end of the day, you were pretty worn out and ready to go to the hotel and call it a day. So I think for the ladies team, they wanted a lot more of the, should I move 2 boards right? Should I change my break point? Should I change balls? Like things like that. Whereas the guys team, and more initially, was more about just like uplifting them and trying to keep a positive sense, like, hey, we have all day. We need to bowl all day. We need to keep a positive attitude. We can't let one open in one of our first few sets ruin our entire day. Like it's not worth it. So keeping them happy and going along is probably more what their focus was. But as they've gotten better, given them more of the technical adjustments that they should make, the boards, adjusting their shot, things like that.
Yeah. At this early stage, what is success to your teams? I mean, you said you didn't really bowl all that great in these first few events, but you got to kind of build up little victories and turn that into big ones, right?
Yeah. And I think for us, victories in a sense isn't always like, where we qualified at a tournament or how well we did. I think for us, it's more like growing as a team, like the cohesion, like the first few tournaments that we really struggled at. I think for me, the victories that we had was being able to come back from that and kind of regroup, reset, and bowl better the next time we went out. And I felt like as a team, we definitely improved after every tournament. And that's, some tournaments you're like, all right, we got to work on our spare shooting. We got to work on our single pins, and that's what we'll focus on. And then like the next tournament, we bowl a little bit better each time. And, it's success is something that you have to build foundations for. You can't just, like, Rome isn't built in a day, and neither is a college, conference winning team. It takes time, and you gotta have the right people buy into it. You gotta have the right motivations and the right goals. And I think my goal for like the end of this year is basically just to keep doing what we're doing, build up our skills, just kind of have a more of an identity as a team going into next year.
Yeah. I mentioned before I brought you on about the GLBC and how you've got a couple more events this season yet. This is, of course, the conference formerly known as the Wisconsin Collegiate Bowling Conference that I was a part of back, in the Stone Age when I was in college bowling. But we had, I don't know, 9 teams, 10 teams. I mean, we could fit in those union houses and be just fine. Now it's got a ton of teams. There are just, teams from states away. You filled Bullwinkles with, with the field and the Stout Open. Is that something that you think about? Is that something that you have to manage, being among all those teams in this conference? Or is it something that you actively try to kind of not think about?
I don't think we really think about it. I would say for us, we're more focused on what we're trying to do and put out there as a unit. I don't go into tournaments thinking about, I hope we can go out there and beat Stout or whoever, Oshkosh, whatever. Because at the end of the day, it's really more important to bowl the best we can and not necessarily set our bar at the same level as some bigger school or better performing program. It's more competition. I mean, the more teams there are that we're competing against, the more we have to fight our way to try and be one of the top ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I gotta ask, I know it's early in your run, but your sister's going to graduate at some point, right? Is she a senior this year?
No, she is a junior this year.
Okay.
Yep, she has one more year.
She's got one more year. When that year comes and goes, do you see yourself continuing to coach even though she's not part of the team?
You know, I've thought about it some. It's still pretty far out on the horizon. I think it also partially depends on where my life is at 2 years from now. Who knows where I'm at, if I'm getting married or having kids, or if it's too much of a time commitment. We'll see. But as of right now, I'm enjoying it, and I don't see a reason to not be coaching in the future. So the door's open. And next year we'll see where we're at the end of that season.
Yeah. So other than the 2 conference events, are there any other tournaments that you guys are going to be competing in this next semester?
There is an invitational tournament in lacrosse, I believe. That would be our last event of the season. That's happening after the last GLBC.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
So 3 more big events to go. And what do you hope your team kind of takes from this season, takes from what happened? I know you can kind of break it down into little moments, into individual events, but at the end of the season, you kind of go your separate ways, right? What do you hope they kind of bring with them at that point?
I mean, in a perfect world, we end our season and then they all just decide to really put in the time and work on their bowling and come back great next year. And granted, I know that's not going to happen necessarily, but I do hope that at the end of the season they enjoyed their time, and they feel like they can look back on the season where they started and where they've finished, and hopefully they think they've improved and they have confidence that next year we can just get even better.
Yeah. And then as far as your bowling, are you just bowling in that league, or are you doing tournaments as well?
So I had been out of bowling for, oh gosh, like 2.5 or 3 years since like the last time because I bowled in a league in Platteville all the way up through my graduation, and then I didn't bowl for a few years. So kind of getting back into bowling, it's kind of like riding a bike, you know. It's something that even if you hadn't bowled in a few years, it's kind of, you can pick it up pretty easily. And I bowled in this league. I've thought about bowling in another league at some point. We'll see. I might bowl at Wagner's just to kind of bowl both houses.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, they play different for sure.
They do.
As for tournaments, though, I've done a few of the tournaments. The Thanksgiving tournament I've done.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tournament coming up in January. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but the one that's at Wagner's in January, I'll be doing. Actually, I'll be somewhat sponsored in that tournament.
Okay.
One of the guys in our league wants to help pay for my entry into that. And
okay, you're not talking about the match games, are you?
I think it's the match games.
Okay, because that's been canceled.
Oh, that's what that was?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but
okay. Well, whatever tournament I end up being in, I do want to get involved in more of the tournaments. They're a blast. I think those are the closest things that I've felt competitive wise to like my high school days of bowling singles for sure, and that competitive atmosphere of bowling in a tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel bad now that I ended it like that.
No, it's fine. It was something that I was mentioned to me like a month and a half ago, and I'd kind of forgotten about it with all the coaching and bowling stuff going on. So I suppose the year is coming to a close pretty quick, and I sort of forgot about it. So if it's canceled, well, I'll have to find something else then.
I was gonna say, shoot, keep in touch with me. I'll let you know what's out there.
Okay.
All right. So we're getting close to that hour. So let's wrap things up with this.
Let's go off the sheet. Challenge a bowler to appear on a future episode.
I would like to challenge Will Madison.
I would say Diana Zavulova.
The better Russo, Lauren Russo.
We're looking for anyone who has a passion for the sport and a unique story to tell.
All right. So off the sheet. That's when you challenge someone else, call them out, as a lot of people like to say. So, Alex Bandli, who would you like to see on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
I would honestly, and this is a little homer, but I would love to see John Breinig on the show at some point. He's my high school coach. He's out of the Sun Prairie program, and I'd love to hear kind of his story and his reflection of like my time when I was there and the ups and downs and sort of his point of view of the whole thing. Because I have my own story, my own version of events, and I think his wisdom would be great to have on the show.
Yeah. Well, I did shoot an email over to him in advance of this one. Didn't hear back, but maybe he'll catch this. And John, if you do see this and want to take Alex up on his challenge, feel free to reach out. You should have my email now. If you don't, it's bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com, or you can find me on Facebook under Andrew Pfeffer. And yeah, we'd love to have you on to share your bowling story. Our next live stream is coming up a week from tomorrow. Now, the last time that Nate Purchase appeared on our show, he was fresh off a PBA junior telecast and about to start his collegiate career at UW-Whitewater. Now he's waiting to learn if he will be the 2024 PBA Harry Golden Rookie of the Year. So Purchase had a nice run of success leading up to his first season on tour. He's going to tell us what he's been up to during the past 3 years, and of course his reaction to tomorrow's announcement coming up Wednesday, December 18th, 7 p.m. Central. Be sure and catch us live for that. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to the Blugolds in the second half of this year, the second semester, and to you and your coaching.
Thank you. It was great to be on and great to share my story.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And of course, appreciate all of you watching. We will see you next.
Thank you for watching Bowling with the Fef. Pound the like button and subscribe button. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it's free. Bowling with the Fef is brought to you by Chip Magnet. Raise your snack standards.
And Jerry's Score More Bowling inside Wagner's Lane, the Eau Claire, Wisconsin area's leader in bowling supplies and services since 1988.
Email bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com with questions or to appear on the show. You can also reach out on your favorite social media platform.